Hey everyone, it's great to see you all again. If I were to ask you what the best way to improve in photography is, what would your answer be? Spending hours tweaking edits? Sure. Watching tutorials? Definitely helps. But what if I told you one of the fastest, most effective ways to get better at photography is to copy others? Today I'm going to break down why copying photographers you admire is not only okay, but essential for growth. And stick around to the end because by the end of this video, I'll show you an image that I created using this very method. And you'll be able to see how inspiration from others can actually help you develop your own unique style. I hope you all enjoy. Now this might seem counterintuitive. Aren't we supposed to be original? But the truth is, learning by imitation is actually one of the best ways to improve. And let me show you why. But before we start, a little bit about me and why I'm so passionate about this topic. Before photography became my creative outlet, I spent years as a music student, studying jazz drum set near Chicago, Illinois. I was never the best drummer at the school, and honestly, especially at the beginning, I was nowhere near the top of the class. But that's when I discovered one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned, one that goes well beyond music or photography, and that's the power of transcription. In jazz music, or any kind of music, transcription means breaking down the work of musicians you admire, listening to their solos, learning them note by note, and playing them exactly as they did. For me, it was drummers like Max Roach, and Brian Blade. I'd spend hours with their recordings, slowing them down, trying to catch every subtle ghost note and every perfect cymbal hit. At first, it did just feel like pure imitation. I wasn't creating anything original. I was just chasing their brilliance. But here's what happened. The more I transcribed, the more their techniques became second nature. I started to understand how they approached rhythm, how they built dynamics, and how they navigated space in a song. Over time, I found myself improvising, not by copying them outright, but by using their influence as a foundation to create something that felt authentically mine. Fast forward to today, and although I've traded my drums for a camera for the time being, that same approach has drastically changed how I learn photography. In photography, copying works in the exact same way. When you study the work of photographers you admire, you're not just looking at pretty pictures, you're breaking down the decisions they made to create those images. Think about it. How did they compose the shot? Did they use the rule of thirds, leading lines, or layering? What kind of lighting situation did they put themselves in? Was it soft and diffused, or harsh and dramatic? And after the image was taken, how did they process the image? Are the colors vibrant or muted? Or are the tones balanced or contrast heavy? When you attempt to recreate an image you admire, you're forced to engage with those decisions that they made on a way deeper level. And just like in music, this isn't about stealing someone's style. It's about learning the fundamentals by standing on the shoulders of artists who've paved the way for all of us. For example, if you've watched my channel for any period of time, you'll probably have noticed that one of my biggest photography influences is Michael Chamblin. His work is incredible. It's full of dramatic light, bold compositions, and a sense of storytelling that feels larger than life. Up until this day, I study his work very closely. How does he compose a shot? What are the focal lengths he uses often, and even his effect and finesse with color? Now, is my work as good as his yet? Absolutely not, but that's not the point. Every attempt teaches me something new that betters myself. I started noticing how light interacts with the landscape, how small changes in angle can dramatically improve your composition. And, just like in music, the more I practice, the more I found myself naturally making decisions on location and back in post that reflected my own vision, my own style. But how could we copy effectively? Well, the first thing is to choose a photographer to study. Start with someone whose work resonates with you. For me, like I mentioned, it was Michael Chamblin. Spend lots of time analyzing their portfolio. Look for reoccurring themes. Do they favor minimalism? Are their photos bold and contrast heavy? What subjects do they gravitate towards? Or what compositional techniques do they use often? Try to compare your images to the photos that you see on their portfolio, not at all in a negative way, but one that can better yourself. Try to put yourself in their shoes and understand what you can do to create a different image that is closer to images that you like. For me, it was lack of contrast and the use of color, and I'm still working on that heavily today. I would look at other photographers' work and wonder why my images don't look like theirs. Instead of making excuses like they had better light or I can't travel to those places, try to unbiasedly look at your images and analyze what is different between yours and who you look up to. And remember, this is not an overnight process. It will take lots and lots of time. However, you have to be willing to put in that time in order to make a difference. The second step of copying effectively is to recreate one of those images from the portfolio of the photographer you look up to. Find a specific photo and try to recreate it as closely as possible. And don't worry if you can't travel to the exact location or match every detail. This exercise is about understanding their thought process. For example, if they used leading lines, find a similar scene and practice placing those lines in your frame. Doing this will help you recognize techniques on location you may have not noticed in the past. In fact, not going to the exact same location will actually help you try not to just copy exactly what they're doing. And most of the time, in landscape photography, even if you go to the same location, it's going to look different. Whether that's the time of the year, the change in weather, or if there are other people there that weren't accounted for. The third step is to reverse engineer their process. Ask yourself about how the image was made. Was it done during golden hour or under cloudy skies? What lens might they have used? If they edited the photo, what kind of adjustments do you think they made? The more you dig into these details, the more you'll learn about how to make your own decisions in the field and in post-processing. For this exercise, choose an image that you like aesthetically and try to recreate that style in Lightroom. While you may not use the exact same techniques to achieve the results, that's not the point. This will unlock the ability to understand and use different effects or sliders you may not have played around with. And the fourth step is to experiment on your own. While you'll inevitably start taking those techniques and making them your own over time, try experimenting with different things that you may not have tried in the past. Maybe you add your own color grading style or incorporate a subject that speaks to you personally. After a while, these small choices will lead to a style that feels uniquely yours. And the beauty of this approach is that it doesn't only apply to photography. Whether you're learning music, cooking, writing, or any other creative skill, copying the masters is one of the fastest ways to build your foundation. For me, studying jazz music taught me discipline, patience, and the importance of learning from those who've walked the path before me. In photography, it's no different. The more you immerse yourself in the work of others, the more you'll find yourself seeing the world in new and exciting ways. And remember, any of you can take that photo. All you need to do is be at the right time, at the right place, with a little bit of luck, and it's just at the push of a button. You don't need to be the strongest or fastest person on earth. You just have to put in the time to make sure you're ready for when the moment occurs. So here's my challenge for you. Pick one photographer whose work inspires you and try to recreate one of their photos. Don't worry about getting it perfect. This is about the process, not the result. Pay attention to what you learned along the way, and don't be afraid to add your own twist as you go. And make sure to let me know in the comments who you've been studying and what you've learned from them. But I hope you all learned something from this week's video. If you didn't already know, I started a Discord server for the entire community to come together, share photos, and give feedback. And then at the end of every month, I'll be selecting one of your photos as a monthly contest winner. Other than that, if you could subscribe to my newsletter for all sorts of updates, and then for vlog, blog, and other video updates, if you could like and follow my Facebook page. Other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.